House Republicans introduced a bill this week that calls for sanctions on top Chinese health officials as evidence continues to come out suggesting that the virus came from the Wuhan Institute of Virology and not a wet market. And joining us now is one of the lawmakers that introduced that bill, Virginia Congressman Rob Wittman. Congressman, good morning. Nice to have you on.
Good morning. Great to be with you.
Congressman, the World Must Know Act calls for a thorough, independent investigation into what happened at the Wuhan Institute of Virology. I think it's fascinating. At what point can we just assume that if China doesn't allow us to further investigate the origins of this, at what point can we assume that they are complicit in covering this up and that it did in fact come from this laboratory?
Well, I think everything leading up to this point would point in that direction. That's why I think it's critical that we demand that they have an open and independent evaluation of what happened at the Wuhan lab. If they don't do that, then I think it does infer that they are trying to hide something. I want to make sure, too, we're holding Chinese health officials accountable. That is, placing sanctions on them, because we know those top Chinese health officials with early ties to COVID-19 obfuscated data. They were not direct and forthright with what happened there in the laboratory. And if we can't get the truth about what happened, then first of all, I believe that we have to infer Chinese actions as not being friendly to the rest of the world, and we can't learn what we need to do to prevent this from happening again.
So let's just say, for example, if we thought the virus came from somebody like Iran or maybe Russia, do you think that anybody would have a problem investigating the origins of the Russia virus or the Iran virus? Do you think that it's from China and that was viewed as xenophobic? Do you think that's part of the issue here?
It shouldn't be. It might be. I point to President Biden, who said we want to send American scientists there to China to investigate this. And now they're backing away from that. We should be pushing forward with that. We should demand, and the world should demand, that China have an open and independent evaluation of what happened there. People cannot, I think, be intimidated by China, because if they do, China will only get away with more and more severe issues that they deal with the rest of the world. This is not acceptable. We have to have an open and transparent investigation of how this happened and what went on there at the Wuhan Institute of Virology.
Senator Rand Paul was just on Newsmax. He's led the charge for months on finding the origins of this virus. He says that this is all going to happen again if we're not able to hold somebody accountable. Take a listen.
We have to have a debate in our country. Do we want to fund research that enhances the ability of animal viruses to infect humans, or that experiments with viruses that could cause 15, even 50% mortality? You know, if the SARS virus that they've been experimenting with gets out, it's a 15% mortality. That's 15 times greater than what we've just seen this last year with COVID.
All right, Congressman, so what happens next? How do we actually get investigators on the ground in China to look at this thing? And really, what can we expect to find? I figure a year and a half later, you go to a crime scene, there's not going to be a lot of evidence left, I would assume.
Well, that's correct. I think we have to demand from China, and other countries have to demand from China, an open and independent investigation of this. Listen, I can tell you, I'm a biologist by training. I oversaw and worked in laboratories that dealt with pathogenic organisms. I know how incredibly important it is to have strict controls there. I think the world deserves to know exactly what happened there. As Senator Paul said, if we don't, then this will happen again. And if we don't understand truly the underpinnings of what happened there, then I think you can see that there could be even other purposes behind what happened in that laboratory other than just the research on what's he called gain of function, and that is genetically manipulating these viruses to see what happens to them if they get more virulent. I mean, we have to understand this. If not, this could happen again. We are at over 3.4 million deaths worldwide right now. The world ought to be demanding that China be forthright and open with an investigation on what happened there at the Wuhan Institute.
Those are the deaths that we know about. That number, according to the WHO, for what you want to, how much you believe them. That's what we know about right now. Has Dr. Fauci gotten a pass in all this? Should he resign?
Listen, Dr. Fauci needs to be held accountable. I want to make sure Dr. Fauci divulges all the decisions that were made through sending U.S. dollars to China for gain of function research. I think that those are things that need to happen. I am adamant that he needs to be held accountable, and I don't believe that he has been transparent. I don't believe that we know everything that we must know about what decisions were made by Dr. Fauci and others in U.S. agencies about sending dollars to China, and then information that was out there concerning efforts in China on virus research.
Yeah, and now NATO wants the WHO involved in that phase 2 investigation, which is a total joke. Congressman Rob Wittman, we appreciate your time. Thanks so much for coming on with us.
Thank you so much.